welcome back to First Strike. I'm joined with the Sports Money Combat crew here. I've got MMA Jeff, Subhuman Gaucho, Fanatical Jim. I'm your boy Pimp Slap POD. And we're here to give you guys our best four early looks to cook the books. That's what we're here to do. Try to beat line movement, try to give you guys the best early advice we can. Obviously, we've got weigh-ins. We've got a bunch of things that'll happen between now and fight night. But of course, these fights are going to be down in Mexico, and they're going to start at 6:30. So we'll pop off live at 6 p.m. We're fresh off another big live stream out there with UFC London. And it just keeps going, boys. It's a big Saturday ahead. Excited. We've got baseball, basketball, hockey, and UFC all in play on Saturday. But we're here tonight to get to work. Let's roll the sleeves up. Jeff, how you feeling?
I'm jacked up as always. We got a good card in front of us, in my opinion. And you mentioned it. We're going down to Mexico, but we're going up in elevation. This is one of the highest elevations places to fight, and I'm jacked up for it. I think there's some good matchups on the card. There's a handful I could have picked tonight to break down, but I'm excited to get further along in the week. To your point, see how the weigh-ins go, and I guess the other thing I wanted to mention is keep an eye out. I'm going to try to throw some golf picks out there for this weekend's matchup. So I'm going to try to get those out tonight. But I'm jacked up, and I'm looking forward to hearing your boys' plays.
There are lots of opportunities to get cash with the Sports Money crew. Speaking of opportunities, Sub Club is live and released again. The video is out there for French soccer, but he's here to talk UFC tonight. Sub, how you feeling?
Good, man. Yeah, looking forward to the return of club soccer. And we'll see about this. You know, these Mexican cards are usually pretty fun. Noche and the Spear, I think, was a letdown for a lot of people. And I don't know. We'll see with these international cards. You know, I think London was a letdown for a lot of people too. I still had fun watching it, but I think a lot of people were hoping for an awful lot more violence. And when they didn't get it, it maybe made for a less than ideal viewing experience, but Mexico's usually fun, man.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun talking about that. Speaking of a lot of fun, our guy, Fanatical Jim, has been banging the books. Follow him over on BetStamp at Fanatical Jim, but he's here to give us some UFC combat best bets here tonight. Fanatical Jim, how you feeling?
I feel good, Mike. Yeah, thanks for the shout out. Yeah, I have my plays on BetStamp, so go ahead and follow me there. I do appreciate the new follows too, so hopefully we can grow that platform and share all our bets as a community. But feeling good. The international tour continues here with the UFC. They're going to Mexico to your guys' earlier point. And yeah, this should be a fun card. I mean, there's a lot of interesting matchups on this card. I feel like there's some that could just be bangers. There's some that could be a grappling competition. And there's some that, you question why those fights were even made. So I think you'll have the full gamut of opportunity here. But yeah, looking forward to breaking the fights down and ultimately get into Saturday and putting some bets down.
Well, we do have some uniqueness here with this card here. How about this? We've got the youngest fighter. We've got the oldest fighter on the UFC roster fighting in combat here this weekend. And you guys talked about it, elevation. There's all kinds of things happening out there. You can't dismiss that. I know you're going to hear a lot about that elevation, but it has to play a part to some degree with what you're doing here as you're laying down your action. We're going to lay down some action. We're going to go to MMA Jeff to kick us off here. And we've got a little opportunity for a big plus money score. I wouldn't be surprised. MMA Jeff's been running hot, and we're looking forward to hearing him break down this first fight. Jeff, talk to us about getting this money.
Yeah, Mike, I'm looking forward to this. We got the first fight on the main card, and it's a flyweight division fight. I'm looking forward to this one. I think the matchmakers, as I mentioned the last couple of weeks, gave us a pretty exciting matchup here. It looks pretty even on paper with both guys in their 20s. They got similar height. Juarez has he's got the slight reach advantage as a boxer. That might help him out in this fight, given the fact that he is a stand-up guy. Juarez, he's got a decent 9-3 start as a pro, but the problem is he's 0-2 in the UFC, so he's facing the tougher competition. He hasn't fared out so well. He's coming in off a loss to Costa, where he got his legs absolutely destroyed and then got finished in the second round. Not the best matchup for him. He also, the fight before that, he fought my boy, Joshua Van, and he lost by unanimous decision. He was clearly not the better fighter, and the judges saw it that way as well. As I mentioned, he is a boxer. He prefers to stand on the feet. he is high volume. He's a quick mover. He likes to mix the kicks and the strikes. He's got quick, solid hands, and he likes to jab. So this is going to be interesting. If he needs to get it to the ground, he can grapple. But if he does get on the bottom, he does struggle to get up, and that's where we could see some, some crazy stuff happening out there. You got Rodriguez on the other side of things. He's 17-2. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He's on a 7-fight win streak. Now he lives and trains in Mexico. So as I mentioned there before the fight breakdown here, he shouldn't have any cardio issues given the fact that he lives and trains there. He's used to this elevation. He won his last one by unanimous decision. That's not typically like him, in my opinion. The 3 fights before that, he ended all of them inside the distance. One of them was a doctor stoppage. The other, I think, was I don't know, it was a KO, or they both were KOs. But the guy can get it done anywhere. He takes his time, looks for the solid shots. He doesn't have a lot of high volume. He looks for the more methodical shot. Once he gets his opponent stunned with that methodical shot, then he looks to throw the heavy KO bombs, which he does possess the power to do so. He's a durable fighter. He likes to go for takedowns as well, and that's typical to a flyweight fighter. This division seems to have a lot of takedowns in it. Once he gets you taken down, if he gets you taken down, he'll definitely shoot up some submission attempts. He's got 5 submission wins as a pro, so I think that's a positive on the Rodriguez side of things. What makes this matchup exciting is both fighters are active on the feet, and they both like to move forward, which it's going to be interesting to see who's moving forward the most. Again, both active fighters, and their cardio is great, both of them. Rodriguez being from Mexico, training in Mexico is great. I think Borjas, he doesn't back away from the cardio. He definitely trains for it. I see a wild pace to start this fight with Borjas. I think he's going to have the clear advantage on the feet with the striking. Again, he's got a 2 or 3 inch reach advantage. I don't know how much that's going to play into it, but he is the overall better boxer, better striker. Once Rodriguez has enough of the volume that he's probably going to shoot for takedowns, I'm thinking either fighter has a shot to win this one. Depending on who's dictating the pace will determine the outcome. Ultimately, I'm going to take the under 2.5 rounds in this one. Now, I got this yesterday at Bet Online at plus 150. It's now down to plus 140. If you like this play, I would certainly take it early because I do see a lot of action coming in on the under 2.5 in this one. I also do have a couple of long shot prop plays. I'm going to put those into the UFC Google Playbook. So make sure you check that out because I'm going to throw a couple of large plus money, good ROI plays out there. But in the meantime, Sub's bringing us to the prelim card.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a closer fight than the line suggests here. It's one I kind of puzzled over. I did a lot of work on it this afternoon. I already kind of had an idea of where I thought I wanted to go, but Loopy is somebody that's kind of frustrated me lately. I had her against Mackenzie Dern in her last fight. I thought that was a really good matchup for her. You just stuff the takedowns, and you can usually do good work on the feet against Mackenzie Dern, who, tough as a $2 steak, but she's extremely hittable and pretty sloppy with her striking. And she was able to stuff the takedowns for the most part, but she was kind of getting lit up on the feet against Mackenzie Dern, which is not something that I really expected. Kind of a similar story against Verna Jandiroba in a way. She does a pretty good job of stuffing the takedowns, but made some really bad decisions in that fight. Starts playing a leg lock game with Verna Jandiroba, and naturally Verna, being the much better grappler, ends up kind of winning those battles on the ground. Verna also kind of outstriking her there. And, I think it's about high time that I start reassessing just how good Loopy is. I used to think that when it came to Loopy, the big problem was her decision-making and some of her fight IQ. And indeed, it has been a problem for her. You go back to her Angela Hill fight. She immediately takes Angie down. And Angie, shows a little resistance, gets back up, and then Loopy just stops shooting. Her corner's just screaming at her to shoot, and she doesn't do so. At some point, you got to add to the decision making. Is this maybe just not as good a fighter that you thought you thought. She's clearly got good wrestling skills, and I think that can give Pilastre problems here. We've seen Pilastre taken down a fair amount when she's got to step up in competition. Most recently, it was Josephine Knudsen. Interesting fight there in a way. I did back Knudsen very early and collected a ton of CLV, which, I felt really good about going into the fight. Boy, watch that one back. I think you could probably make a case that Knudsen lost that fight and that Pilastre probably could have had her hand raised. It was a UNAM for Knudsen, but if you look at the scorecards, they were absolutely all over the place. None of them were the same. None of them really made sense. We'll get into every round scoring and whatnot, but kind of a weird call. So that made me reassess Knudsen, but it also has me reassessing Pilastre a little bit. I thought she looked pretty good in the Corey McKenna fight more recently. It is Corey McKenna, granted. But that one, I thought she was pretty dominant. Weirdly, that one was a split decision. There was no basis for that. Once more, there were 3 different judges' scorecards. I think that could be a bit of a theme here, that we get a split decision, and I'll likely take some. It opened plus 300 on the offshores. It's already dropping. I have a feeling by the time the domestics open it, we're going to be seeing plus 225. So I think that's not a bad way to play this fight at all. It's a totally juiced over, and it should indeed go to the scorecards. Neither of these girls have ever been finished in their career. So all that said, I got to back the underdog here. I mean, actually, if you think it's a close fight, plus 200, you could do a whole lot worse than. But just in terms of this matchup, I think Pilastre has a lot of skills that can give Lupi problems here. We talked about Lupi's wrestling. Pilastre can be taken down, but the women she's been taken down by are pretty darn good. I mean, Knudsen got her down a couple times. I think Pilastre maybe a little bit. Getting out over her skis in that one. The only other fight where she's really been taken down and held down has been against Yasmin Uregi. And I think we can all kind of excuse that. That was a while ago, but Yasmin's always been a pretty elite wrestler. So no big surprise there. So that said, I think what's going to give Lupi problems in this fight is her kind of one-dimensional boxing. Now, what I mean by that, technically speaking, her boxing looks pretty good, but it is one-dimensional. She's not a kicker outside of the rare leg kick. Pilastre's an awful lot more aggressive. And I think as she's coming forward and Lupi's unable to land with any real impact, we're going to see Pilastre have some success. And she's one of these counter strikers that almost you could compare to somebody like maybe like a Ruffy or a John Silva. And I know that sounds like a stretch because, these fighting nerds guys have looked so darn good lately. But what I mean by that is she's somebody that counter strikes, but she likes to be going forward and on the front foot when she counter strikes. If Lupi's on the back foot, it's going to be that much more hard for her to wrestle, even if she decides to, which she may very well not for whatever reason. That's just what Lupi does. And then in the meantime, Lupi's defense is often this high guard where she has both hands up very high, covering her face. And if she's backing up, I don't think she's going to have boxing success in the meantime. So I think tactically, Pilastre has her pass here. She's an aggressive girl, and she'll probably have the bigger minutes. I've said enough here. It probably will play out close, but give me the dog, and I will, of course, be sprinkling that split decision.
Yeah, a little interesting battle between these boys here. Chairez and Vergara, of course, we're sitting here and kind of on the surface, you look at this one and big price tag when you start looking at this Vergara number, or I'm sorry, on the Chairez number, minus 258. I don't know that I can get behind it minus 258, but I did start to kind of peel the onion back a little. And as you start looking at some fight tape on these guys and you start kind of reading behind the stats on the surface, what you're going to see is, Chairez has got a submachine out there. He's got quite a few submission finishes. In fact, he's got a 100% finish rate, and 65% of them have been by submission. The challenge is he's not a wrestler. He's not the best wrestler anyways. He can certainly wrestle with them, but he doesn't do takedowns. So, what happens and what you look at with this thing here is it's because the opponents that he faces, they tend to get stupid. And then he gets on their back. He ends up choking them out and he gets the win. So when you look at Vergara and how he battles, certainly not a grappler. I think he's going to want to stand and bang with these guys here. And that presents a problem in itself because he's got to protect that chin, or he's going to get pieced up. And the reality is he's been subbed twice as well. So I can see at the surface when you look at this fight, it's got to be Charas by submission. But again, the lack of takedowns, the fact that I can't imagine Charas wants to go to the ground because he's not the strongest of wrestlers. You look back at some of his opponents and who he's dealt with here. We talked about Van earlier, Joshua Van. He lost a decision battle to Joshua Van, and I get it. Kind of makes sense. He was a little sloppy there and kind of left himself a little exposed, and he's not a technical guy. So, when it comes down to it, the judges raised a hand for Van and 100% can get behind that. Flip side of things here, when you look at Vergara, he's coming off of a loss. He got knocked out. What I love about that situation, they want to spend a round or so trying to get their feet back underneath them, get their confidence, and away they go. So we take one round off the table. That means we've got rounds 2 and 3 left to go. Chara's not taking him down. Vergara wanting to fight. I think it's going to be a lot of dancing, and that's going to present us with this opportunity to look at Charas. But we're going to go Charas by decision. He's not getting a finish. He's not getting takedowns. He's not going to get KO'd. I don't necessarily envision he KOs Vergara. I think this is one of them slow battles. Everyone's bored. And then we look at it, and when the judges go to the scorecard, they're going to go to the hometown boy, the Mexican favorite in Charas. And this is a nice price tag here for the Charas by decision at plus 165. That's the way I'm going to play this fight. I think that's the best way for us to get down with this one. Hey, it might even be a split decision. That might be the theme of this card, but Charas here for the money. And to get this thing by decision at plus 165 is my official play for this fight. That being said, we're going to close up here with our guy, Fanatical Jim. He's ready to talk to us about another banger. I can't wait to talk about this one with him here. Torres, Dober. Let's hear how he's going to get paid.
Yeah, Mike, and I think banger is the correct word here for this co-main event with Drew Dober and Manuel Torres. This is on paper probably the most exciting fight for me. The most, I'm looking forward to this fight the most, I should say, just because it will be a banger. This is going to be two guys who are going to point to the middle of the octagon and just unleash. You have Manuel Torres, his nickname is El Loco, because he is crazy. I mean, he fights with an absurd pace. I believe he's only been out of the first round once in his professional career, and he's going on his 19th fight. So that should tell you something about his fighting style. He leaves it all out there, and he can do a lot. He can go for takedowns. He can throw some power punches, but he is as reckless as you're going to see a fighter. And not necessarily in a bad way, but he does tend to leave himself open in a lot of situations. If you looked at his fight, I guess if we want to go back to like Frank Camacho, he gets a knockout against Frank Camacho. Nicholas Mota, he knocks him out there as well. And then Chris Duncan, Chris Duncan is basically my scumbag of the week. I was hoping Mike would put that on pre-gaming because he cost me that nice bet last week on Buchenik. But with that Chris Duncan fight, Manuel Torres was able to, I think I mentioned on the show last week, he was able to do like a suplex takedown on Duncan. And I couldn't believe how quick it was where he got to Duncan's back and submitted him. It happened within like a millisecond. So he is so fast, but it happens early. The Bahamondes fight, which he recently lost, he got knocked out in the first round of that fight. That was a situation where he versed someone who is a technical striker. And, Bahamondes doesn't have the greatest power, but he is able to strike, and he's looking really good. He's actually improving. And he caught Torres because Torres does tend to leave, and you probably heard this a lot if you've looked into this fight, but Torres does leave his head up there to be hit. He can be hit. And Bahamondes hit him and knocked him out. So he's coming off a loss, and he's versing Drew Dober, who's coming off 2 losses. Drew Dober just coming off a loss to Gene Silva, where he was a third-round TKO due to a cut stoppage. He lost before that to Renato Moicano in a really good fight that went to decision. He knocked out Ricky Glenn before that. And the fight before that is, I think, where everybody's kind of, I guess, down on Dober because he got knocked out by Matt Frevola, right? So if you got knocked out by Matt Frevola and Drew Dober's always considered a really durable fighter, It was a bad look. He got knocked out in the first round, but if you go back and look at that fight, it was really the perfect punch that Frevola threw. It was a left and a right, and the right connected right on his chin. Frevola jumped right on top of Dober and didn't give the chance to recover, and the ref stopped it. That was one of the first times that we've seen Dober just really look like that. Usually he's just Mr. Durable. I mean, the guy went 3 rounds with Makachev. He's been in there with Bobby Green. I mean, he's been in there with all the guys you consider this really good strikers and really good MMA fighters. And that was really the first time you're questioning maybe Dober's durability, but ultimately came back and, as I mentioned, with Gene Silva and Moicano, and he looked durable. I mean, he looked the same. He was going out there, he was throwing strikes, he was taking hits. And I think overall with Drew Dober in this situation, 2 straight losses. I've always said this, and I've said this on previous shows, and there's some fighters on this card too are facing a similar situation. You don't want to lose your 3rd fight. You don't want to be the guy, because once you have 3 straight losses, that's it. I feel like for your career, especially now with Dober hitting 36 years old. I mean, this isn't a very important fight for him, and it's very important that he gets a win here. And I understand Manuel Torres is in Mexico and he's going to fight in front of his home fans, and he's coming off a loss himself. But I just feel like this fight is way more important to Drew Dober. And if you look at how the books lined Dober previously, he's a plus 100. He actually got to plus 115 or 110 in this fight. In the Gene Silva fight, he's plus 100. So same odds against Gene Silva that he is against Manuel Torres. Against Moicano, he is plus 150, right? And that's Hanato Moicano, who just got a title shot recently. Against Bobby Green is minus 150. Against Terrence McKinney, he's a minus 155. That was we're 2 years removed from that. So now all of a sudden he's an underdog to Manuel Torres, whose best win is Chris Duncan, coming off a loss. And also, if you look at Manuel Torres coming off a loss to Bahamondes, is he going to come out with that same reckless abandon that he normally comes out with, right? Because sometimes, especially when you get knocked out for the first time, like I can understand getting subbed and say, okay, well, I don't care. My chin is still great. I'm going to come out there and do the same thing I always do. Well, coming off a knockout loss to Bahamondes, does that change his thought process? Does he come out more reserved, right? If he does, I think Dober is going to, that he's going to win the fight. If he doesn't, I still think Dober's going to win the fight. So I'm taking Dober money line. That's my play for this fight. But ultimately, how I'm looking at it is I just think Dober's the better fighter. Dober has obviously a lot more experience. We've seen these fights go down previously where the guy with more experience is getting his hand raised in the majority of cases. And I just don't think that Manuel Torres in a fight with Dober is going to have enough here to get Dober out. Now, again, is Dober's chin gone because of the fight he had with Gene Silva and the amount of damage he's taken, and the fact that he got knocked out a couple of years ago? I don't think so, but it will be tested. Torres is going to test it. The other factor you have here is, Dober cannot fool around and get taken down and give up his back. He's going to have to keep distance, be technical, don't engage Torres in his antics, stick to your game plan. Jeff talks about elevation. He mentioned it. Drew Dober trains in Colorado. He trains with the elevation team. Cardio won't be his issue here. Manuel Torres has never gone out of the first round. Now he lives in Mexico, but you question his cardio if it gets out of the first round. I actually do lean to this getting to the second round. But again, if I'm on Dober, that probably makes more sense. But I'm not going to bet it up right for now. I may take it in the future, but for now, I'm just going to be on Dober. Like I said, getting plus money here, plus 100. This line is moving, so look for shop around. I think you can still get it around minus 105 or plus 100 now, but minus 105 on some books on some offshores. So shop around, but yeah, I'm on the Dober side. So with that, Mike, let's go over the recap and break down the 4 fights.
Appreciate everybody rocking. The boys have given you their first 4 bets to get these books in the running. Appreciate everybody spending the time. Hit that thumbs up button. There's so much great happening here on the sports money community. Follow these guys over there on X, MMA Jeff, Fanatical Jim, Subhuman Gaucho. Check out all the action that they've got going on. We've got the UFC playbook out there ready to roll, continually being updated as we go. That's been a great tool. I think we're like 8 or 9 fights deep on this thing now. So check it out. And of course, make sure you look at the post tab over at Sports Money. Lots of great polls here, and the community has been crushing, over 70% winners. Look at those as you're making your final bets for March Madness, the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, and everything else in between. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the Sports Money channel, and we will see you guys on Saturday live for UFC Mexico. We'll pop off around 6 p.m. On behalf of the Sports Money crew, thanks for checking us out. We'll see you guys real soon.